The Amish have controlled pests for over 300 years without a single synthetic pesticide. No chemical spray. No poison bait. No fumigation. Yet their farms exist beside industrial agriculture. Same insects, same heat, same soil, same disease pressure, and in many cases, they lose less of their harvest. That should not be possible. Modern agriculture spends billions trying to kill pests. The Amish built a system where pests struggle to appear in the first place. We are not starting with the strangest method on this list. We are starting with the ground itself, with something so foundational that every trap, every rotation, every natural deterrent on this list depends on it. By the time we reach the final method, the way you think about insects, weeds, and crop failure will completely change. Everything. Let's go. Here is how this works. 15 Amish pest control methods, each one built around a single principle. Healthy systems repel destruction naturally. Not through force, through balance. The Amish do not see pests the way modern agriculture does, not as enemies, as signals. An infestation is not the beginning of the problem. It is the final symptom of a system already weakening underneath the surface. Weak soil, weak plants, weak biology. Research on plant immunity shows that insects consistently target crops under nutritional stress plants, overloaded with free amino acids and unstable sugars. Biologically speaking, the plant is already failing before the insect arrives. That changes everything. Because once you understand that, pest control stops being about extermination. It is about building a fortress. A living fortress made from mineral-rich soil, microbial life, crop rotation, timing, animal integration, and methods passed down through centuries of survival. This was never a trend for the Amish. It was a necessity. In the 1500s, Anabaptist communities across Europe were pushed onto exhausted, low-fertility land that other farmers had already abandoned. They could not rely on wealth, machinery, or chemical intervention because none of it existed for them. Their only option was to restore the land itself. So they learned how to make weak soil strong. And over generations, they built one of the most resilient agricultural systems in the modern world. Genesis 2:15 says, "The Lord placed man in the garden to tend it and keep it." Not dominate it, keep it. That difference is the foundation of everything you are about to see. Method 1 begins beneath the surface, in the soil. When the Amish migrated to North America in the 18th and 19th centuries, they brought that tradition with them. Their reputation as exceptional farmers was never built on machinery. It was built on the perfection of biological systems refined across generations of failure and correction. Modern studies comparing Amish farmland to neighboring non-Amish land document significantly higher organic matter, better water infiltration, less compaction, and elevated microbial activity. The land did not come that way. They made it that way, deliberately, over centuries. That is the foundation every method in this list is built on. Before the methods, you need one rule. Pests are attracted to weak plants. Weak plants come from weak soil. Healthy soil produces plants with thicker cell walls and a stronger biological immune response. Plants that insects physically cannot digest efficiently. The Amish know this as stewardship. Scientists call it systemic plant immunity. Both descriptions point to the same mechanism. This means the Amish pest control system operates in 5 layers, and none of them start with a spray. Soil fortification, olfactory confusion through companion planting, biological recruitment of predators, physical barriers, and botanical intervention, deployed last, only when everything else is already working, and still not enough. Most people start with layer 5 and never understand why it keeps failing. The Amish start with layer 1, every time, without exception. Psalm 24:1 says the earth is the Lord's, and everything in it. they did not interpret that as permission to exhaust it. They interpreted it as responsibility. Layer 1 is the soil itself. Composting. Manure from the farm's own livestock. Cover cropping with clover and rye during the off-season. These are not wellness habits. They are the primary pest resistance mechanism. A closed-loop nutrient cycle that eliminates the soil imbalances that make plants attractive to insects in the first place. Layer 2 is companion planting engineering, what researchers call olfactory confusion. The three sisters, corn, beans, and squash. An ancient guild where the corn trellises the beans fix nitrogen for the corn and squash leaves shade the soil and deter insects with their prickly stems. Marigold borders repel soil-borne nematodes and whiteflies. Basil planted beside tomatoes disrupts the chemical signals that guide aphids. Nasturtiums act as trap crops, drawing aphids away from the main harvest entirely. Layer 3 is biological recruitment. Insectary strips planted with dill, fennel, and yarrow attract predatory wasps and lacewings, whose larvae are voracious hunters of soft-bodied insects. Birdhouses positioned at the garden perimeter recruit insectivorous birds that work the foliage during breeding season. In dairy barns, swallows are encouraged to nest because they hunt flies directly off the livestock. Not a single chemical involved in any of it. Stop. Everything described so far requires no product, no store, no purchase. You could begin implementing all 3 layers this week with materials already on your property. What comes next is different. The methods from this point forward require timing, judgment, and precision. The cardboard collar that protects a seedling from cutworms works only during the plant's most vulnerable window and must decompose before it restricts the roots. Wood ash dehydrates slugs and surface insects effectively until it gets wet, and applied in excess, it raises soil pH to damaging levels. The tobacco infusion that eliminates caterpillars will destroy tomato and pepper plants if applied to them. The botanical sprays, garlic, hot pepper, soap, are not broad-spectrum biocides. They are targeted suppressants designed to hold an outbreak long enough for the predators to regain control. The difference between a method that heals the system and one that damages it is not the ingredient. It is the knowledge of when, how much, and on what. You have been told. When structural and biological defenses are not enough, the Amish reach for the botanical pharmacy. These are homemade preparations from garlic, onion, hot pepper, tobacco, and soap. The chemistry is documented. Capsaicin, the active compound in hot peppers, is fatal to mites and whiteflies and repels ants and larger mammals. Allicin from garlic disrupts the biological function of aphids and beetles at the cellular level. Sulfur compounds from onions repel a broad spectrum of insects without leaving synthetic residues on the food. The garlic chili spray. 1 bulb of garlic, 1 onion, 1 teaspoon of cayenne, 1 quart of water, and 1 tablespoon of dish soap. Blended, steeped for an hour, strained through fine mesh. Applied at dawn or dusk to avoid leaf scorch. Effective against aphids, beetles, caterpillars, and whiteflies. Here is what most people miss. These sprays are applied after the predators are already in the garden. Their purpose is suppression, not elimination. The goal is to buy the biological system time, not to replace it. The bottle is the last resort, not the first. These plants did not develop their defenses in laboratories. Neither did the simplest Amish methods. A piece of cardboard pushed 1 inch into the soil around a young transplant, rising 2 inches above the surface, blocks cutworms from severing the stem at night. It decomposes in 4 to 6 weeks, exactly when the stem has hardened past the point of vulnerability. 0 waste, 0 cost. Precisely timed by the plant's own biology. Wood ash, sprinkled around the base of plants, causes dehydration in slugs, snails, and surface-feeding insects through direct physical contact. No toxicity, no residue, effective until the next rain. But the most underestimated method on this entire list is the morning walk, 15 minutes, a bucket of soapy water, every day. The Amish identify problems while they are small before a handful of hornworms becomes a colony, before a single diseased leaf becomes a systemic infection. Hand-picking pests, removing compromised foliage, interrupting life cycles before they reach the threshold where intervention becomes difficult. Observation is not passive. In this system, it is the most active thing a farmer does. Here is the fact that recontextualizes everything. The Amish do not just manage what grows, they manage when they intervene. Planting by the signs is a chronobiological system that aligns gardening tasks with the lunar cycle and the position of the zodiac, not mysticism. A temporal framework used for generations to optimize plant vigor and time pest suppression with precision that modern agronomy is still studying. During a waxing moon, moisture is drawn toward the soil surface. Above-ground crops are planted. During a waning moon, energy shifts to root development. Root crops go in. Pruning happens. Fertilizing happens. The zodiac signs are classified by fertility. Water and earth signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Virgo, are the most fruitful. Fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, are the most barren. The Amish time their pest control, weed suppression, and invasive plant removal to the fourth quarter of the moon in a fire sign. During this window, plants and seeds are at their lowest vitality. Noxious weeds removed during Leo do not grow back with the same force. Pest deterrents applied in Aries hold longer. They banned nothing. They timed everything. The most surprising level on this list has nothing to do with the garden. The Amish home has no electric bug zapper, no ultrasonic deterrent, no aerosol can under the sink. Flies, ants, rodents, cockroaches, all managed through physical exclusion, scent disruption, and low-tech trapping that has not changed in 100 years and does not need to. Gaps in foundations are sealed with steel wool or quarter-inch mesh wire materials rodents cannot chew through. Peppermint oil placed in cabinets is overwhelming to mice. Cayenne is mixed into paint and spray foam. If a rodent gnaws through the material, it encounters capsaicin. It does not return. For flies, simple glue traps on window panes, positioned where flies congregate near light. For ants, a mixture of white vinegar and peppermint oil along baseboards disrupts the pheromone trails that guide the colony through the house. For cockroaches, equal parts baking soda and sugar in a shallow container. The sugar draws them. The soda eliminates them. No electricity required. No subscription required. No expertise required beyond knowing which pest you are dealing with. Simple, specific, permanent. If you stayed to the end, you now understand something most modern agriculture still struggles to admit. The Amish do not win against pests because they discovered a miracle spray. They win because they built an ecosystem where large-scale infestations become difficult to sustain in the first place. That is a completely different philosophy. Before the first insect arrives, the system is already fighting back. The soil is mineral-rich and biologically active. The crops are rotated. The planting is diversified. Predatory insects already live in the garden before an outbreak begins. Physical barriers protect plants during their most vulnerable growth stages. And when intervention finally becomes necessary, it is targeted, controlled, and timed with precision, often at dawn, when effectiveness is highest and collateral damage is lowest. Nothing is random. Every piece supports the next. That is why these methods survived for centuries, while entire generations of chemical solutions constantly need to be replaced. Because pests adapt to products, but they struggle to overpower balanced systems. And once you see that, every industrial pest outbreak starts looking different. The insects were never the root problem. They were the warning signs. A signal that something deeper had already broken underneath the surface: depleted soil, weakened plants, collapsed biodiversity, disrupted microbial life. Fields forced into exhaustion year after year, until the ecosystem itself could no longer defend what was growing there. The Amish did not merely fight pests. They removed the conditions that allow pest explosions to happen. That distinction changes everything. Because this is larger than gardening. It is a completely different way of thinking about health, agriculture, and stewardship itself. Genesis 2:15 says man was placed in the garden to tend it and keep it. Not dominate it, not exhaust it, keep it. For 300 years, the Amish built their farming systems around that principle. Long before modern science had language for soil microbiomes, nutrient density, ecological resilience, or integrated pest management. And now, research is slowly catching up to practices they never stopped using. If this video changed the way you look at the problems in your own garden, send it to someone who keeps fighting the same insects every season, with stronger chemicals and weaker results. Because most people are trying to kill the symptom while feeding the cause. Maybe this is the beginning of a different answer. Subscribe and leave a comment telling us which method surprised you most. We are going deeper, next into Amish seed saving, Amish water systems, forgotten preservation methods, and what centuries of close observation have produced that modern agriculture is only now beginning to understand. We are just getting started.